It's Pixel and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be telling you the top 9 tips to rank up from any rank. So before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. For tip number 1, I'm going to talk about practicing your aim. Your aim is crucial when it comes to ranking up in Apex. Missing even the littlest of bullets can determine most of your fights, so even if your movement is bad, the more shots you hit, the better. So your first priority in improving your skill is getting better aim. Practicing your aim is very important in gaining RP. A good way to practice is to use the new firing range settings that recently came out. With these settings you can choose the speed, shield, and movement of the dummies, and over time you should be able to fine-tune your settings to perfectly fit your playstyle. For tip number 2, I'm going to be talking about your rotations and positioning. While playing ranked, you should always pay attention to the zone and potential places that you have to rotate to. Your goal in a fight is to have a better position than your enemies, so you should always rotate prior to any other teams. Therefore, you should always make sure your team is never in the same spot while pushing a team that makes you an easy target. You and your team should almost always have off angles before you push, so you can have a higher output of damage from different angles. And while you're pushing, always pay attention to your teammates' positions, whether you're 3-stacked or solo queuing. This will allow your team to have the best positions to win and rank up. For tip number 3, I'm going to talk about improving your game sense. Game sense is your understanding of how the game works, when to make a play, and how to make plays. Game sense can naturally come to you over time if you just play and practice. One way you can improve your game sense is finding 1 or 2 legends to play as your mains. From this, you can start to understand your abilities and the perfect times to use them. Especially in ranked, your abilities can also change the course of your survival and potential RP gain. The final thing you should understand about game sense is your movement. How you move can make or break the skill gap between you and other players. The more bullets you can avoid with your movement, the better. So you should always strafe your body in a fight so the enemy misses as many bullets as possible, and you take a minimal amount of damage. And for tip number 4, I'm going to talk about avoiding high action locations on the map. Now that the maps for rank switches every 24 hours, you can get a feel for all the maps pretty quickly, so you will eventually get the flow of the maps down over time. So a smart play for this season is to land somewhere where there is one other team and do a 50-50 off drop. This strategy almost ensures that there won't be a third party if you get the fight over very quick, but still be prepared for a third party because anything is possible. And finally, you should time your fights from 30 seconds that the fight has started, and if the fight isn't going anywhere, you should immediately prepare for any third parties because more than likely they will arrive. The 5th tip I'm going to go over in this video is don't always be so aggressive, especially if you are solo queuing because teammates aren't always reliable. In these games, you should take specific fights. You should always try to force other teams to fight before you do, so your team can be the third party and get the easy KP. To ensure this happens, you should always have an in-game leader, or IGL, giving callouts for what your team should do in certain tense situations. And you should never land at the same spot every game, because the ship can change where and how many people land at that location. So it might not always be reliable. But if you do have a team, you should always play semi-aggressive, because you have communication, which is always an advantage to other players in the lobby. For tip number 6, I'm going to go over the importance of your loadout and what it can mean for you. Your gun should always consist of at least a long and close range weapon. A good combo for Season 16 ranked is the R99 and the Nemesis, because of how broken they are this season. The R99 is a good close range weapon that can one-clip your enemies very easily. And since the R99 has been buffed this season, it is the best SMG, hands down, to choose from. And the speed at which you can crack someone with the Nemesis is great for poking damage and entry damage into a fight. One-clipping can seem like a hard thing to do, but with aim smoothing you can easily get it done. You should always try and fight a team with a weapon that is specific for that certain range. You should never try and use an SMG for mid-range fights because you can easily waste bullets and miss a lot of bullets as well. Gun choices are very important, so choose them wisely the next time you hop on ranked. For tip number 7, I'm going to tell you to reflect on your gameplay. If you or one of your teammates have recently died, or if you have been team wiped, you should reflect on your gameplay and think about what you or your teammates could have done better to have a better outcome. Doing this can improve your game sense for future encounters, and it will allow you to understand what to do in most fights and how to approach them. Instead of being the player that always complains or screams that the game is bad, always reflect on what you could have done better, so it lessens the impact of the loss. Now it's time for tip number 8. It is to always have confidence in gunfights. Yes, it's smart not to take every fight in ranked, but some fights you will just be forced to take. So in these situations, you should always stay calm and confident, even if one of your teammates is down. You should play your position with confidence and poke any team that tries to get aggressive and trying to team wipe you. If you're getting chased, don't just keep running. Eventually, the enemy team will catch up to you, so if you need to retreat temporarily, do that, but don't run forever. Get the drop on the enemies chasing you and show them you're not a team that can easily be wiped. Because to good teams, enemies running is a sign of weakness, so they will usually get over aggressive and keep chasing you. Finally, for tip number 9, try to avoid solo queuing at lower ranks. When you decide to solo queue, you are actively putting yourself at a disadvantage to other teams. Solo queue teammates usually aren't very smart, so you're basically going to have to 1v3 most fights, which is why it isn't reliable. But if you don't have anyone to play with and solo queuing is your only option, try and find reliable randoms you can make friends with. You can easily do this by going to game chat and trying to get the best calls and plays for your team. Even if you just try to have communication with your solo queue teammates, it might even the odds that are highly stacked against you. That's all the tips I have for you today, but if you want more in the future, subscribe and like the video, and thanks for watching.